today. Yeah? You look surprised by that. Wait, what? What are you talking about?
She said we're not ready.
Oh, okay, that's understandable.
Just fine.
Guess what, Miriam? I'm not ready. Mary, next day she's crazy long. And if I do nothing this next weekend for Labor Day, I'm extremely happy with that. Okay. Yes, please turn that on. Any questions about that quiz before we continue? You'll have something similar like that, 10 questions or less. Like I said, it'll be timed, it will shut it off. And then we can go over questions next week about that quiz.
So 1 and 3 were both Compton scatter, right?
1 and 3?
Yeah.
No.
What was 3?
That's what you said.
Wait.
Sorry. 1 and 3, sorry.
One was Compton scatter, and random exposure, number 3.
Yes. 2 is photoelectric.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So Compton scatter, photoelectric, Compton
Right. So think about it. Why do you wear lead?
because of Compton scatter, the electrons.
Okay, all the electrons go off the patient, off of the detector, right, in different directions. And so if you're standing next to that patient, that's what's coming off, right? So that's why lead and occupational
Because the
Compton scatter.
photons hit the outer electron shells.
Yeah, well, we're not gonna get into all that. But I'm just saying, Compton scatter is what you should be worried about as a tech. Okay.
That I knew.
Okay. All right. Let's talk about diversity. So we're going to define what diversity is. We're going to look at some characteristics and describe how it's related to traits of age, ethnicity, national origins, race, gender, sexual orientation, which is a hot topic these days, and mental and physical abilities. Name the values that are prescribed to U.S. mainstream culture. Right? Living in this country versus other countries is a little bit different. We're going to list some elements associated with cultural competency. Discuss valuing diversity, why it's important in healthcare. And discuss ways in which you, as a X-ray tech, future X-ray tech, and the organizations you work in, express valuing human diversity. Oh yeah, I was forgetting that thing.
Yeah, I know that is there.
What is diversity? Some of you may have your own ideas of what you think diversity is, but it's known as a cultural cultures consisting of values, the beliefs, traditions, behavioral norms. These differences are what make each person unique and valuable in his or her own way. Addresses the variety of human societies and cultures and examines the similarities and differences. Society is made up of many cultures. Thank God, or we'd be so boring. Cultures establish behaviors of people, and they can be for a lifetime and provide comfort. Everybody have their own comfort food that they like to eat? Okay. So I'm gonna guess, possibly, that in this room we have a lot of diverse taste in comfort foods, right? That in mind. I thought this picture was very trippy at first. Really
Yeah.
stare at it too long,
Like somebody trying to put Picasso back together.
right? Globalization means that people now cross borders into other countries to work, go to school, receive medical care, visit, and live. How many of you were born in this country? How many of you were not born in this country? One person, okay. So Miriam's experience may be a little bit different from everybody else's in this room. Did you have to go, or have you become a what was that experience like? Was it easy? Was it super quick?
Yeah, because I had to like learn about the politics and everything for
Right.
that exam.
Yeah.
So I liked it.
I went through it with my husband. He was born in Canada. But you take these things for granted when you're just born here and they just hand you your social security card and you get, it does take a long time.
Yeah.
Did you get it done in a month?
No.
Did you get it done in a week?
Years.
Right. And then how long did it take you to get your official U.S. passport if you have one? Do you have one?
Yeah, I have.
Yeah, that took my husband months, right? And it didn't help that it was all during COVID either. But
I got during COVID.
yeah, we take these things for granted, right?
You probably know
Being
more about
from here.
politics than I do.
Yeah. I studied with my husband. I was like, I forgot all this crap from elementary school. Nations, societies, professional organizations, and businesses have become increasingly cross-cultural and multicultural, right? Some of you could very well go to another country and do this job. Might look a little different, right? Might be a little language barrier, but it is a possibility. People are affected by the changing world society. Ain't that true? Because I think because of social media and things, social networking has gotten even larger. It's worldwide and has enhanced globalization. You could be watching a video from another country and learn a lot, right? I did not have that growing up. We'll talk about generations too in this chapter. Some characteristics of human diversity is age, right? Ethnicity, national origin, your race, gender and sexual orientation, mental and physical ability, work style or ethic, and your family status, right? You may not have a traditional family. What are some other things that can be characteristics of diversity? Give any? Religion? Yeah. Religious beliefs? Right, that was on the other slide. What are you all getting right now? Education, right? That can change a lot of societal status. Geographic location, right? Midwest is pretty affordable. Any of you know anybody on the East Coast or West Coast? It's very expensive. We went and visited my sister-in-law and family in the East Coast of New York. I couldn't believe how they were living out there. I'm like, how do you guys do this?
Phoenix, Houston.
Yep.
Super expensive.
Physical features can even make a difference, right? As far as diversity. Political beliefs. That's a big hot button, right?
Yeah, I feel like social networking is another thing that has transformed that.
Oh, yeah. Like
Like-
social media? Oh, yeah. It's made it worse. I think, in my opinion.
Yeah.
Personal biases. The wise woman once told me we all have our prejudices. That's my mama. Marty Rich. Heard her here first, right? I didn't understand what my mom meant, but it kind of made sense once I went out into the world and I saw things, right? I grew up in a very small Midwestern town. Like I've told you already, I had one stoplight. I mean, no stoplights, lots of stop signs. I grew up around the same kids most of my formative years. I knew them since preschool. 89 of us in our graduating class. Okay? There is more color in this room than I ever saw from kindergarten through senior year. Okay? It was a big eye-opener when I went off to college to a completely different town. And I went to a small private college, but there were a lot of people there that were getting scholarships from all over the world, different parts of the country. So that was a big eye-opener. That's my personal story. That's my experience, right? Experiencing diversity. I thought, don't laugh, I thought African American people were like the Huxtables on the Cosby Show. Like that was my idea of someone of color. Okay? A bias is a real human characteristic. We all have them. But it needs to be addressed. You need to be aware of what your personal bias is, right? Maybe you had an experience with someone of color that really changed your bias, right? Or maybe you had an experience out at the club with somebody of a different sexual orientation and it formed your experience, okay? We all have little biases, right? Who in here loves Brussels sprouts? Raise your hands. Who absolutely thinks Brussels sprouts is gross? Okay, right? We all have little biases. Even think small, right? And work from there. And we can have these biases without even thinking about it, guys. That's when we have to be careful when we start going out into the professional world. And it can affect how people perceive you, right? Because you don't even know that you have this bias and you act a certain way. Dealing with bias requires you to be educated in the knowledge of other cultures. Anybody else have a similar experience to me where I did not experience other cultures outside of my Caucasian one? Okay.
Different, you mean?
Right.
Sorry, yeah.
Yeah. I mean, I grew up United Methodist. Like, I didn't even experience a Catholic until I met my husband. Now I'm Catholic. So, I mean, yes.
I was just gonna say, I grew up, in a pretty nice suburban area. Like, there were different people of color, but when I started working for Quick Trip and I worked in like downtown Kansas City, it was like the first time I saw like a drag queen, like in different like people of sex. That wasn't like a lot. You didn't really come out like that much back then.
No,
when
and
I
that's a
was in
generational thing too. There's a lot that can go into play with that, right?
So I was
People were not out in the 80s and 90s like they are now.
like it was starting in the like end of my high school years.
Right. Assimilation is described as the process by which persons of diverse or different cultures over time give up their original culture, language, and identify with and try to merge into another culture, usually the majority. Requires the person to give up some of their values, accomplishments, beliefs, so on, in order to blend in with the mainstream. So, I feel like in some way, me personally, I've kind of assimilated growing up in an all-white town, right? Kind of enclosed in a bubble. I went off to college, met a bunch of different people of different backgrounds, ethnicities, sexual orientation. One of my favorite study partners when I first went off to college was homosexual and identified as a girl. He loved to dress up and study in girls' clothes. Never thought about that until I met him. He was a great study partner. I met my husband. My husband is African American. He's Ethiopian and Jamaican. So I have really had to change my views and my worldview, especially after having children with him and having someone that is mixed race, right? So in a way, I've assimilated from my very basic white thinking to a little broader perspective. Bicultural is the ability of individuals to be able to negotiate and competently two or more cultures, the mainstream culture, and then the individual's own culture. Okay? It's a comfortable balance for the individual between cultures. That's just the definition of assimilation again, guys. Some U.S. mainstream values, right? Work hard. Anybody have older parents here? Are they in their 70s, 80s?
They were 30 years apart.
Oh,
Yes,
okay,
yes, ma'am.
that'll form you.
Yes,
Yeah.
ma'am.
Okay. Another thing that in the U.S. status, people want to look at your personal achievements and your success, right? What's the definition of success in this country?
Money and
Money, social status. Do you own a home?
material
Right.
possessions.
Material possessions like a car. Do you have a lake house? That's a big thing out here. I was not used to that when I moved out here. Everybody's talking about the lake house. Do you have a boat at your lake house? Right? Efficiency and practicality. Affluence. Consumerism. Material comforts. Right? Do you have a nice fancy house but nothing in it? Those are some U.S. values. Competition. Anybody heard the term competing with the Joneses? Right? Keeping up with the Joneses? No, I hear some rattling. No, you never heard that?
I have.
Yeah, you look at your neighbor and you say, oh man, he's got a really nice brand new Lexus in his driveway. I like that. Right? There's a little competition in the United States. Openness, directness, being well informed. Most Americans are very direct. How many of you have gone to other countries and gotten a weird look when you said something? Okay. All right. Age-based generations. You've got the greatest generation, the silent generation, the baby boomers, Gen Xers, millennials, or Gen Y, and then Gen Zs. Did somebody just say the greatest generation after I said Gen Z? No, I'm just kidding. In the years ahead, the millennials will take over the baby boomers. Okay? Kind of pushing those peeps out. In terms of population numbers, I was raised by boomers. My husband is technically a boomer because he's 12 years older than me. And you can definitely tell it when there's things that we value and some of our political views. He's very old school. We use that term loosely.
What years exactly are the baby boomers again?
I encourage you to look these up, and there's different ranges. So some people would say he was born in 66. People would say he's a Generation X.
Okay,
That's on page 131 in your book.
There's also sub-generations.
There is subgenerations if you get too far into it. But just know that most people that you might be taking care of are in the upper levels of baby boomers. They're going to be in their 70s and 80s right now. I think, what page did you say that was on? 131.
131.
Oh, I'm miraculously there.
Yeah, it's.
So my grandparents were the greatest generation. My grandfather lived to be 101. Yeah, and he died at the beginning of the pandemic. He was born during the Spanish flu epidemic. Yeah, pretty amazing. So if I take care of myself, I have that to look forward to. And I want to live like my grandfather because he still got up and did things. And when he stopped getting up and doing things, he didn't last much longer. But he was ready, 101. So my parents were raised by the greatest generation, right? I was raised by baby boomers. That kind of forms you. And then some millennials are being raised by Gen Xers. Okay? I have a millennial at home. Pretty sure. Close. Yeah. Millennial, Gen Z. Yeah. Because millennials gotten a negative connotation, I think, in some ways. And each generation, they're formed by things that are going on in their world, right? Gen Xers did not have the social media and all this technology that millennials did. And the Gen Zs. Like, my 8-year-old could start using my cell phone at 3. I mean, she can navigate some things better than I can. Okay?
Just when I think like the year range on millennials, I just feel like the way technology changed so drastically.
Oh yeah.
And then also social and financial status, like in the 90s, like there was internet, but my family, we didn't have it in my house.
Right. Right, we
like
didn't
rich
have
people had
cable
internet.
until I was already off at college.
Yeah, so I feel like they could divide that a little bit
Oh,
more.
sure.
I feel like that's a very broad spectrum, because there was so much.
131, you wanna look it up. Okay, so age bias must be corrected. This is the key point on this slide, guys, right? You're gonna, I mean, and again, social media, there was something out there about boomers. It's like making it sound like a Karen, right?
Well, okay, boomer.
See? Okay.
Got truth to it.
It has truth to it, but you can make it negative, okay? So age bias must be corrected, and older individuals must be regarded for their value and their experience and their knowledge, right? My parents, I feel like, raised me with a really great work ethic, right? You went to work. You didn't call in. You just didn't feel like going. You didn't just switch jobs without having another job lined up. Like, I feel like my parents taught me some really great things. And they were taught some really great things because they were raised by the silent generation that went through the Great Depression, that were born out of things like the Spanish flu epidemic, right? That you had to work hard for what you wanted to get, okay? Fruit was like chocolate. Good point. Ethnicity, race, and national origin. We have a long history of being the melting pot, right? And a lot of things have been going on in politics, I would say, over the past 10 years or more. We've gone from the melting pot to, can't come over here until we're ready to say that you can come over here, right? Build this wall and everything. I'm not gonna get off on a tangent, but I just want you to know that some things have changed on this planet as far as being a true melting pot, accepting everybody in, being a safe haven, right? There's a really good table on 10.1. Oh, page 132. Sorry, guys. I did put in my notes. Of just kind of the breakdown. You can check out the census between the 10-year span of what ethnicities are out there as far as white, African American, or black. That's pretty much stayed the same, but Asian, that population has increased in a 10-year span. The other big one that stands out to me, and me definitely personally, is this multiracial, right? I can remember filling out a form for my oldest for some kind of services for speech or something, and they didn't give you an option, and it was like a government form. They didn't give you an option for me to choose more than one thing for her. Well, she doesn't fit in the white category, and she doesn't fit in the black category. What is she, right? And I was really pissed. I was pissed for her because they were making it so narrow. I think too, those kinds of things, little things have changed. So that's a good table to kind of look at and kind of understand how we've grown as a culture. Cultural diversity in healthcare. It's important to have bilingual or multicultural staff. You need to provide translators and interpreters. Provide medical documents in different languages. I know that a lot of our forms on one side are in English and the other side they're Spanish. Encourage staff to become more multicultural with training and education. We have to go through a diversity training at the hospital, and I believe there's even one that I'm supposed to do before the end of this year for the school. I've done it before as an adjunct, but it's very time consuming. But you learn a lot, and things that you're not necessarily thinking about. Using digital translation technology. We went from using these janky phones like this, right? And sometimes the reception stunk as far as a translator goes, and now we have iPads. We only have so many per area of the hospital, but they're great because the person speaking another language as a translator can visually see the patient, right? So there's things that you pick up with facial pretty extensive procedure, you want to use that translation. Gender and sexual orientation. This includes gender roles, gender identity, sexual orientation, whether you're hetero, homo, bisexual. There's homophobia, transgender. I feel like the transgender should be up one, sorry. Understand and use patient preferred name. We had a really, really good speaker last year at Mozart that spoke about this and how just within radiology you can be more sensitive to people's needs and understand where they're coming from as far as sexual orientation and gender identity. I encourage you to look at box 10.1 on page 135. It talks about Kinsey's scale of heterosexuality and homosexuality. Anybody know who Kinsey is? He was a psychotherapist that kind of broke down human sexuality a little bit against some kind of borderline unethical experiment processes. I believe there's a movie based on him out there. I can't remember.
Not nice there, but that's a little bit.
Well, there's in the history of psychology, there's been a lot of unethical
Right.
experiments, but we've gotten better, thank God.
Yeah.
But I'm going to touch on this last piece. If a patient comes in, hold on a second, I'm going to give you a final example. Okay, so I'm going to do a little role play with Sophia. All right. Now I want you to pick up on something that I do. Hi, I'm going to take you back for a chest X-ray. Can I get your name and date of birth? 5. Okay, my thing here says Sophia. Oh, okay, great, Sophia. Let's go on back. Right. So what I've done is she's just told me something. She said, "I prefer Steve." Her legal name is still Sophia, but I have to address her as Steve. You can see it on her paper if she's already told you. Now, I also did something very inconsiderate. I said, "Okay, Sophia, let's come on back." Right? I just disregarded what she told me. Right? That's something I learned in that lecture that I sat at, was that when you start using what a patient considers their dead name, it can be very discomforting to the patient. They feel like they're not being heard. It can be triggering. That's another generational term. But one of those things that you have to be sensitive about, right? You don't have to understand it 100%, but you have to be sensitive about it. So I know it sounds silly, but try, if they say my preferred name is Steve, try to continually address them as Steve. And it is okay to say they, them in most situations, right? If they haven't told you what their preferred pronoun is, use they, them. It sounds crazy at first when you start doing it, but the more you do it, the easier it becomes. Okay. The radiologic and imaging sciences profession must make every effort to ensure the patient feels respected at all times, regardless of their gender or sexual orientation. Okay? Mental and physical disabilities. There is a Disabilities Act in place to protect these individuals. 4 essential core values for human rights law is autonomy, dignity, equality, and solidarity. Check out table 10.4 in your textbook for a little bit more on this. And 10% of the world population has some type of disability. Embracing diversity. We have to have knowledge of different cultures. That's the key, right? Start there. Respect for others and self. Right? I like to use the word be kind. Just try to be as kind as possible. Know your personal biases. When you're educated about yourself, you have that level of self-awareness, then you can be better, you can do better, right? Understand the values of the individual regardless of his or her condition in life. This time of year, it's really hot, especially with the sweltering heat. We get a lot of homeless people coming to the hospital, right? They are at a very low point because they don't have all the creature comforts that you have at home. And they're probably really enjoying being in the hospital and having someone actually take care of them, despite what might be medically going on. Seek to learn from others you meet and interact with them. I've learned so much. I thought I knew a lot about different cultures, especially marrying someone of color, having biracial children, but just in the 15 years that I've been doing this, I've learned so much, not only about other cultures, religions, but I've learned a lot about my own personal bias, right? Appreciate the social value of multiculturalism, and just have empathy for others, right? What can some hospitals do to improve medical care to individuals with or with limited English proficiency? Nicole?
They should have like an actual interpreter for overnight staff at hospitals.
That's a good key thing. So, a translator, right?
Yes, ma'am.
What about paper stuff or chart stuff?
When I worked at the hospital overnight, it just wasn't helpful. We had things like
I know,
that.
but think about the broad umbrella of medical care. What is something that a hospital has to have? It was in a slide.
Different languages on documents.
Correct, yeah. Some will even go so far as, like, if you speak Farsi, that they can make that form into Farsi, right?
We just had a lot of Spanish speaking, but they would ask me a question, and using Google Translate was just not helpful.
Yeah, you can use it to an extent. Like, I took Spanish for nursing, and I did that for my own personal reasons. I wasn't going to go into nursing, but I knew I wanted to go into healthcare, and I was moving towards this profession, and I thought, I don't know Spanish. I took 5 years of French, right? Thinking I was going to live in France or something. It helps now because my daughter goes to a French immersion school, but practically I needed Spanish, right? So I can give some level of comfort and care when I can address someone that's a Spanish speaker in their native tongue. It may not be perfect, but I've had patients tell me, thank you for trying to talk to me. Like, and I always tell them, like, I know very little, like, because they'll start just rambling off things. And I might pick up a word or two, but that's just me trying to make myself a better tech for my patients and my population that I'm serving, right? Now, if I was in the Southwest, I'd probably pick it up a lot faster.
Right.
But
Right. I tried really hard, but
yeah, and they get comfortable and they want to talk to you, right? So that's why we have to have those interpreter lines. The visual interpreter lines are awesome, but some facilities are still,
yeah,
just
like
dial up,
1800s, let me tell you.
right? You can use a patient's family in certain cases to be the translator. I know a lot of hospitals don't like that because they may not know the lingo. They may say the wrong word, right? So you have to be trained as a medical interpreter.
I was just saying, like, I know some hospitals will cover, like, student loans and stuff for certain jobs, like, if you get a job there. And if they're gonna do that, like, maybe they could offer, like, financial aid for, like, Spanish classes or,
Well, you can take,
American Sign Language.
so you all know that you have to do continuing ed credits, right?
Yeah.
You will always be learning for the rest of your lives in radiology, right? You all know that, right? Just checking. Sometimes those things just go right over your head in orientation. So you can take a Spanish for nursing class and it can go towards some of your continuing ed credits. Now, getting into hospital reimbursement and stuff like that, possibly, but that's a different subject. How many of you in here speak more than one language fluently? Raise your hand. Raise them high. Okay, 4 of you. Great. you to speak as I've asked you? Spanish? Spanish? Are you pretty good at Spanish? Is that, okay. So I encourage you, right? Use it, okay? I had an ABLA student and she was very leery about using Spanish. She said, you are gonna connect with your patients so much easier than I can. If we walk in and it's an older Hispanic woman, she's gonna feel comfortable telling you. She's gonna want to talk to you, right? So use those things. Use them to your advantage. Okay. Now, if they're saying something you don't understand, right, or you can't get across to them in a term, like a medical term, in your language, use the translator. Okay. I'm not saying you are now a medical translator, but use that to your advantage. Okay. I wish I was in your shoes to a certain extent. Okay. Cultural competency is a set of attitudes, congruent behaviors, and policies that come together in an agency such as a hospital healthcare system, and among professionals enabling effective interactions in a cross-cultural, multicultural environment, right? So basically, all of these places have to have like a diversity training in place. Some 5 key elements are valuing diversity, possessing the capacity of cultural self-assessment, having a consciousness of the dynamics of cross-cultural interactions, institutionalizing cultural knowledge, and developing adaptations of service delivery that affects an understanding of multicultural environment, right? So under these policies that these facilities have to have in place, part of it is having the translation, having the extra type of forms and things in languages for patients. And a lot of these facilities need to try not to be so ethnocentric.
What does that mean?
So ethnocentric means like one ethnicity, right? Like my high school, right? One color.
Those 5 elements are on page 137. by the way.
Thank you. All right, I'm gonna finish this up, then we'll take a little break, okay? We got chapter 11 to go over as well. Some things to becoming culturally competent, adapt diversity as a value, right? Some places have it as a key pillar. Develop a capacity for cultural self-assessment, right? Taking those training videos, doing the quizzes and things after you have to watch the video as a yearly thing. And becoming aware of the dynamics of cross-cultural interaction. You have to incorporate this knowledge of multiculturalism within your organization. And then you have to put all these things into practice, right? So, you need communication, space, time, environmental control, biologic variations, and social organizations to help with diversity in healthcare. So 2 key things as you guys move forward into your profession. Practice empathy, okay? Knowledge of different cultures. Educate yourself, right? Ask questions. Miriam brought up a good point. We were talking after lab one day that a lot of people assume that you're Hispanic, correct? So I have definitely learned very quickly in life, probably in college first, and then even more so when I got to a larger population working in healthcare, that you can't just take a look at somebody and go, yeah, you're 100% Caucasian. Right. Okay. That's the other thing, 23andMe, everybody knows maybe a little more than they did before. But Miriam always got assumed that she's Hispanic. Okay? So you can't just assume. Ways to provide high quality, effective care for all patients Skill cannot take the place of sympathy and understanding. For science without heart is ugly and pitiless. Patient care hinges on understanding, communication, empathy. Healthcare is fostering the development of these skills in every practitioner, right? In this quote, you are the practitioner.